having a voice is incredibly powerful. Being able to speak, being able to talk to people, being able to communicate. I'm not just talking about sounds, I'm talking about writing and everything else, and being able to use that to communicate to people is incredibly powerful. Scary though. It's overwhelming sometimes, an overwhelming force of voices that can impact you.
My name is Jack Butler, and I suffer from depression. For a while, depression is a lot like you can't really have a great day, even when it's pretty good. Pretty good is like, oh, cool, I smiled kind of thing. When you have depression, it's a very empty feeling. Feeling any little bit of something is amazing, but it also prevents you from really having as many good moments as you feel like you should. It's like an expectation you put on yourself almost after a while. Like, I should feel better about these things. I should be very happy that this person's talking to me and communicating with me, but at the end of the day, it just sort of feels like nothing happened. When you go back to the whole emptiness question, when it comes to how it affects me on my worst days, it's very isolating, I think. It's very difficult to really be there for someone with depression sometimes because of how isolated the person can feel. I have found coping mechanisms in the way that I find people to help me with it, but you still sort of feel like you can't get out of it, especially when it's affected you for a very long time, and certain bad days will feel worse and worse because, you don't really have anything to compare it to. It just sort of feels normal. Going through every average day with depression, I mean, like, again, it's normal. It's not the best thing in the world, but certainly not the worst thing in the world. I have to deal with it so often that, you sort of form this like fake personality around yourself. And luckily, like a lot during this year, actually, I've been mostly genuine. But there are certain days where I'm really kind of pushing myself to not let people know. And it's really stressful because even though I'm a very openly depressed person, I still can't be that all the time. That's a lot where my professionalism and mannerisms have to come into play. That's why I dress this way. Because I want to come off because you don't want to be like, that guy's depressed all the time. He's a sad person. I don't want to hang out with him, kind of thing. There's a reason why a lot of people kind of look down on it, or they feel really bad for you, and why it's like a social, like you're not socially intelligent or something like that when people have it sometimes, because you're not putting on that face. Because if you have it all the time and showing it, then it kind of, isn't appealing. In middle school, I was known as like, there was one day in health class when we were talking about it, and I was talking about how some of the science is kind of bullshit, because it's really hard to tell sometimes. It can be, because it can happen so fast and so instantly. Like, mine was a very prolonged, like, I didn't really follow the signs. I just sort of lived life regularly and not troubled anyone like I normally would. And I told that story because it's like, you can't always tell, and you shouldn't be blaming yourself if you can't tell, because sometimes it just happens. And there was no way to help it. But yeah, it's happened a couple of times. A lot during middle school, a couple times during high school. It's a really weird place when you think that's the solution. Because the only reason why you do it is because everything seems really, really hopeless, and you don't really think anyone can help you out of it. And that's the only reason why I sort of stay around, and especially with a couple days after, you start thinking about that, like how many people you could have affected and how many people do care about you and how much that would have definitely affected them. And then you have to deal with that stress on top of the fact that you are already in a situation where you want to kill yourself. And yeah, it's sort of a rabbit hole of emotions. best way I've been able to cope with it is to never sleep by constantly staying busy. You think it'd make it worse. It actually makes it so much better because I have to be doing something. I don't have time to be depressed. I am filming, I am editing, I am writing something, I have to do school, I have to do a job. Keeping myself really busy has helped me take up the time where would have been sitting around and just thinking.
My name is Jack Butler, and I have a voice.